we'd still be on the lake. Back then, the lakefront would have been a half mile in front of us running along Michigan Avenue. That's why it's called Michigan Avenue. It used to run right along Lake Michigan. But after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, all we could think to do with our 3 square miles of piles of smoldering rubble was push it into the lake. And that's what we did. The land on either side of us right now, all the way to Michigan Avenue, is man-made land, first built on the rubble from the Great Lake that we pushed, from the Great Fire, that we pushed into the Great Lake after 1871. Now here on the right, we have these brick and green glass residential towers. These are Riverview from 2004 by James DeStefano. Notice the first 4 floors of this complex is a row of townhomes, each with an individual entrance from the Riverwalk, all 4 stories tall, all with a private elevator to its private rooftop terrace. They do sound nice. If you're looking for a home, I recommend them. Now, that being said, I'm not very good at real estate. I never have been. I'm not sure what they sell for. I do know that not many tour guides live there. Now, in addition, there are a lot of greenish windows along the river. Architects love to use here to match the color of the river itself, which is natural. The color on the river today is created by the fact we have a clay riverbed that lots of green algae grows on, and then the water that comes in from the lake is very clear, so we can see that greenish color from the algae on the riverbed. However, every year, once a year, the river is a slightly different color when on the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day, the plumbers in Chicago, the Plumbers Union, dye the river neon Kelly green. Now, the dye that they use is certified biodegradable by the EPA. It's made completely of vegetable material, and it is a top secret proprietary formula. The plumbers have perfected the formula themselves in the 1960s and have repeatedly refused to sell it to other entities, keeping it a uniquely Chicago Plumbers Union event. Now, after this bridge on the right, you see this stone tower with the vertical lines, the black inlays, and the skinny spire on top. Vertical lines, setbacks, geometric ornamentation between the windows. Sounds like Art Deco style. In a way it is, but this building is not from the 1920s or 30s. This is our NBC Tower, designed by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill in 1989, meant to resemble Rockefeller Center in New York, the national headquarters of NBC. And once we get to the front of it, you can see right under that skinny spire is the colorful NBC Peacock logo. Now, here on the right, there's that peacock up on top. Now here on the right, we have this short building. This little short building on the right is a downtown campus of the University of Chicago's graduate school. Trivia question, the main campus of the U Chicago is in which neighborhood? Hyde Park, yes, about 6 miles south of us or so. Now, this downtown campus was designed by Dirk Lohan, grandson of Mies van der Rohe. It doesn't have any windows on this wall we're passing. Pretty controversial, having a wall with no windows along the river. Dirk Lohan said, well, that's where the classrooms are. The students shouldn't be gazing out the window. Now, looking to the right, we have the Apple Store by Sir Norman Foster. Right behind the Apple Store is the Tribune Tower. In the 1920s, the Chicago Tribune held an international contest to design the most beautiful office tower in the world. They selected this vertical neo-Gothic style design, submitted by Hood and Howell as the winner, bankrolled its construction, and was headquartered there from 1925 to 2018. Now here on the right is the Wrigley Building. The Wrigley Building is by Graham Anderson Probst and White Architects. It is French Beaux-Arts in style, and it is clad with over 300,000 white glazed terracotta tiles. Now, French Beaux-Arts style means it has an ornate base, a stack of floors, and an ornate top to match the ornate base. French Beaux-Arts was very popular in the early 1920s, and at least in Chicago, was gradually replaced in popularity by Art Deco toward the late 1920s. Here to the right is this very tall glass tower. This is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. It's the second tallest building in Chicago today, 1,388 feet tall, or 423 meters, designed by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, with lead architect Chicago-born Mr. Adrian Smith. Now, the interesting thing here, the roof levels are the same height as its neighbors. The lowest roof is the same height as the Wrigley Building behind us, The second highest roof is the same height as this dark steel rectangular building ahead of us to the right. Those roof levels designed on purpose to provide some continuity with its neighbors in the skyline. Now here on the right, this dark steel rectangular building is by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe from 1973. It was originally the IBM Tower, and it is currently the American Medical Association Plaza. International style, dark steel, rectangular patterns made to, designed to create practical shapes on the inside of the building. Moving on though, I see some of you are already gazing ahead, and I know why. After the next bridge on the right are what, according to Instagram, are the most photographed buildings in the city of Chicago. Those two circular towers ahead of us to the right are Marina City. Marina City was finished in 1968, designed by Bertrand Goldberg. Goldberg was inspired by nature. He said there are no right angles in nature, and he wanted to create circular shapes for humans to live in. Now, when Marina City Towers went up in the 60s, no one really lived in downtown Chicago, and so, to entice residents, Goldberg designed the complex with a ton of its own amenities. It had its own grocery store, movie theater, bowling alley, skating rink, this marina on the river, and those two spiral parking ramps above us on our right side. Now, looking at the parking structure at the bottom of Marina City, you might get nervous imagining cars falling into the river. Don't worry, that's only happened twice. Now that is true, but I should probably tell you the whole truth. It's never happened on accident or tragically. Both times were planned stunts. Once for Steve McQueen's last movie, The Hunter, and the other for an auto insurance commercial. Okay. Now after this next bridge on the right is this brick building with the clock tower. Ahead of us to the right, the brick building with the clock tower is the Reed Murdoch Center, designed by George Nimmons, built in 1914. It is a window to the Chicago River's past, back when this river was lined with buildings just like this one, built as warehouses, so that ships could come in from the lake, dock at the warehouses to do their business before continuing shipping routes around the Great Lakes. Again, we do still have a port in Chicago, but it's on the south side of the city today, no longer in the river here. Now, the style of architecture of the Reed Murdoch Center is called Chicago School style, defined by being a brick or stone building from the early 1900s with so many windows, because having so many windows required steel framing in your building, which was at the time state-of-the-art technology being perfected right here in Chicago. Now some newer technology here. This tall glass tower is 300 North LaSalle Street, one of our most environmentally friendly buildings in Chicago, designed by Picard and Chilton. It uses river water to supplement its air conditioning system. It brings water in from the river, circulates it as coolant throughout the AC system, and releases the water back to the river cleaner than it found it. It's platinum certified by Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Now, get ready. I don't want you to miss it. If you look quickly to the right now, you might spot a stone building. Just kidding. Extra large and in charge, this is the Merchandise Mart. The Merchandise Mart was finished in 1932, designed by Graham Anderson Probst and White. It is Art Deco style, vertical lines, geometric ornamentation, setbacks toward the top. It was the largest building in the world upon completion, with 4.2 million square feet or 400,000 square meters of floor space. Designed by Graham Anderson Probst and White, Mr. Marshall Field of Marshall Field's department stores paid the money to build it to consolidate his many warehouses around the city into one huge warehouse downtown on the river. It's a mixed-use office building today with lots of high-end interior design showrooms in the first few floors. And here's the fun fact. Up until 2008, the U.S. Postal Service gave the Merch Mart its own zip code. That was 60654. I do want to make a quick housekeeping announcement. We are only about 10 minutes away from the dock, so if you're holding an adult beverage, do finish that up. And don't take alcohol off the boat, and it might be time to hit the heads, that is boat speak for use the restroom, if you were going to do that before disembarking. Okay. Look to the right. To the right is that glass tower with the diagonal undersides and a narrow base. Here's how it stays upright. Those diagonal steel beams on the diagonal undersides of the building cross through it, creating X bracing at the base, and inside the top of the tower is a mass damper. 150,000 gallons of water in a tank. When the wind blows against the building, the water is pushed against the blow of the wind to balance it out. It would stay upright without that system, but it prevents it from swaying nauseatingly on windy days. Now look to the right, we have this green glass building. This green glass building is 333 West Wacker Drive, designed by Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox from 1983. It's contextual. Contextual means matching your surroundings. It's green to match the river's greenish color, and it curves to match the bend of the river it's built on. So, looky here. On our right side, we have that big gray box in the river wall there. Looks like it's got a bunch of projectors in it. Well, every night at 9 o'clock, the wall of the Merchandise Mart becomes the world's largest public art installation. So those projectors are used to project a program of visual art set to music on the wall of the Merch Mart there. So we have some people gathering along the Riverwalk to watch the show. Of course, it's in a public space. It's completely free. Just walk down the Riverwalk when you're done with us tonight, right there, and you'll get to see art on the Mart. That's the phrase to Google if you want to. Art on the Mart. Okay. There goes the Brown Line train over the Wells Street Bridge above us. Of course, thanks to modern technology, they pass over the river completely undetectable. Now, ahead of us and to the right, there is a stone tower. After the next bridge on the right, a stone tower. That's the LaSalle Wacker building from 1930 by Halliburton and Root. It is quintessential Art Deco with vertical lines, a big setback in the middle, and geometric ornamentation throughout the windows. All right, just a sec. Look to the right at the LaSalle Wacker building. You can see that one of the reasons why setbacks were popular when they were done in this configuration with that big setback central tower there is because it created those narrow sections of the building which allowed for good cross ventilation through the windows. Very important when you built a stone building before air conditioning was common. That ventilation would prevent it from needing to be just shut down in the summer from being so unbearably hot on the inside. Now, after this bridge on the right is this tall glass tower with the light fixtures accenting their way all the way up to the top there. That's 77 West Wacker Drive. It's by Ricardo Oldfield from 1992. Again, right here to the right after the bridge. It is postmodern style. Postmodern means mixing past with present. It's got Roman-inspired arches on the first floor, modern glass and steel throughout the building, and a Greek temple-inspired roof on top. Past and present, postmodern. For something completely different, right next door is Short Brown 55 West Wacker, a great example of brutalism. Brutalist architecture gets its name from the French word brut, meaning raw, referring to the raw appearance of its exterior. It's from 1968 by C.F. Murphy and Associates. And then, after this bridge on the right is a tall, dark, greenish-gray tower. Postmodern, meant to look like a column in a column coming out of a column, from 1989 by Roshan Dinkalu. But here's the fun fact. 35 West Wacker, this tall, dark, greenish-gray tower. Leo Burnett Advertising Agency, which you might not know by name, but you do know the characters they created, including Ronald McDonald, the Keebler Elves, Snap, Crackle, Pop, the Jolly Green Giant, Tony the Tiger, and they even wrote the Meow Mix jingle as well. Okay. After the bridge to the right, there's that fancy stone tower with the little temples in the corners and then a big domed temple on top. That's the old Jewelers building from 1927. It's French Beaux-Arts style with an ornate base, a stack of floors, and an ornate top. The four temples in the corners were originally meant to house water tanks for fire prevention. Now, after this bridge, if you look ahead of us to the right, ahead of us and up to the right, you'll see a green tower with a golden top. Green tower with a golden ornamented top. That is the carbide and carbon building designed by the Burnham brothers, built in 1928. That is during Prohibition. when all alcohol was illegal in this country. That green tower that tapers up to the fancy golden top is meant to resemble a champagne bottle in protest to prohibition. The gold on top is real 24 karat gold leaf, and it is the only building in the city clad with green terracotta tile. The light stone building here, this is the Mather Tower, finished in 1929, designed by Riddle and Riddle Architects. Notice the top 2 floors of it are a lighter shade of white. They were replaced in 2002. A new owner, Masterworks Development, tore down the original top to the building and commissioned a new top to the building. They built it somewhere else in town at ground level, floated those new top 2 floors down the river on a barge in their completed state, and had them flown up by helicopter to be fixed on top of the tower. That remodel was done in 2002. And the Mather Tower was originally meant to be a pair of twin towers, but the first one was finished right before the stock market crashed, kicking off the Great Depression. Its investors pulled out, its sister was never built, and the Mather Tower ever since has remained singularly Chicago's skinniest skyscraper from 1929.